Hi, I'm Dave, and welcome back to another episode of I'm Glad I Heard That. Today's guest is Matt Cripps. Before we get started, we're going to ask that you click on our subscribe button. We're over 1,000 followers, so I kind of feel like a big deal, and most of that's been my doing, I would imagine. And then if you could also hit our like button, that'd be greatly appreciated. Matt, welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here, Dave.
A few years ago, I was working on a youth event, and I was looking to do some things in the summer to help our students engage in service in the area. And I talked to a couple of different organizations, and one of the organizations, they said, you should talk to Matt Cripps at Good News Gain. I'm like, well, he's got a killer last name, Cripps, so like that's kind of cool. If my last name was like Bloods, that would have been like super cool, Bloods and Cripps, whatever. Right, but it isn't, it's Frank. And so then, I'm like, yeah, I'll talk with him. And so I got to learn a little bit about your ministry. We brought our students down. We had an incredible time. And then, really didn't talk to you for a few years. Mm-hmm. Recently, one of our members said, hey, I would like to do a bike donation time, where people donate their bikes. Me and some people fix them up, and then we give them out to organizations in Detroit. I go, that sounds great. We collected like 75 bikes from all of you. We got them repaired, and we got them delivered down. And he said, I would like to go to Good News Gain. I go, oh, I know that guy. So I reached out to him, got to connect again with you. And so since then, I said, yeah, I'd really like people to know a little bit about what the Good News Gain is doing. Get to know you personally, and down the road, this might be something they actually want to help with, supporting you financially, volunteering, different things like that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the intention for bringing you in today. And so you have more daughters than me, which I didn't know was possible.
Double.
No.
Yeah, you have 3?
I got 4.
4, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got to go back to school.
Yeah. But you have 6 daughters.
6, yeah.
All right, and then, so we're going to do names and ages, and then how long have you and your wife been married, and what's her name?
Absolutely. Well, my wife's name is Danielle, and we were married in 1998. Now get this, right? We both have daughters, right? And so my wife and I met in August of 98, and we were married in December of 98. So 4 months. We just knew each other, but we knew it was a God thing.
Well, you also knew I better lock this down before she knows.
Classic. She had to lock me down, right? Yeah. Vice versa. Yeah. So that was amazing. You're looking back and now going close to 25 years, we're having a great time. And so
4 months is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I tell you, I've got 6 girls, obviously. And so if one of my girls come to me and say, I met a guy, we're getting married, how long have you known him? 4 months. I kind of flip my, I see now, you're looking back.
Sure, yeah.
But God is good. So we have 6 girls. My oldest is named Jordan. She will turn 21 this month.
Awesome.
On October 20th. And then my number 2 daughter, her name is Reagan. She's 19. And then Allie, my number 3 daughter, which just got her driver's license today. I had to ride. She's 17. I had to ride in the car with the instructor. We went on the freeway. I was like holding on, but she did a great job. She knocked it out. So her name is Allie, short for Alexandria. And then and then there was a halftime. There was kind of like a break, right? And so, but next one, she is 12, and her name is Sarah. And then you've got Tori, which is short for Victoria. She is 10, and then you've got Leah. She's the youngest at 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm impressed. I remember all the names.
No, you did really great. All right, so you guys have 6 daughters, and you're doing the homeschool thing, right?
We do. We are now. Yeah.
I'm just judging you.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, once you have 6, you have to homeschool. I think that's like a rule,
Right.
So, all right, great. And then, and so you grew up. I found out when I was delivering bikes, just through a weird conversation, that you grew up in the foster care.
Yes. Yep.
When did that start? And
it started immediately the moment I was born.
No way.
Yeah. I was born, and my mother gave birth to me down at Cass Corridor in Detroit, and she was a full German, and she had no desire to keep me. She literally walked out the door, and then they found her in an alley, and they took her to the hospital. And even in that moment when she recovered from that, she walked out and made it really clear she had zero desire to want to have me. And so the state had took me away from my dad because he wasn't financially stable, at that time. And so I was placed in foster home from when literally just being born. And I lived with that foster family for 2 years.
Okay.
And then from there, I transitioned to another family and I was with them up until 7 years old. So 5 years, 2 families up until 7 years old.
And then at year 7, was your dad able?
At age 7, my dad finally was able to get himself established. And, we lived in Detroit, southwest Detroit, near Mexican Town. Many people obviously are aware of Mexican Town. And I grew up there on a street called Hubbard Street near Clark Park, Western High School.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a story you're not hearing that often in the foster care system, because obviously your dad decided not to give you up for adoption, right? He didn't release the rights completely, so you stay in the foster care. Really, to only be in 2 homes over 7 years is kind of
it is rare.
That's a rare thing,
Yes.
And then from there, for your dad to be able to get stabilized enough to meet the state's requirements to bring you back in. Did you have any other siblings after that?
At that time, it was just my dad and I.
Great.
Up until recently, when I say recently, within the last couple of years, my wife and her sister decided they really want to know, who in the world are you really?
Yeah.
And so they had me do the DNA and the ancestry. And so it come to find out, I knew that I had family on my mom's side. I knew she had additional children.
Oh.
But I always just assumed that they lived in Germany.
Yeah.
And then when the results came back, it came back informing us that I have a brother and a sister up in Traverse City and another brother in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona.
Oh my
and
God.
so my wife reached out to them. They were kind of like floored. Like it took a while for them to really kind of digest the fact that they have a younger sibling on my mom's side. But so we eventually were able to connect, and we drove up to Traverse City, and all of the pieces that they were missing, I was able to fill them, and all the pieces that I was missing, they were able to fill. And so from the names, everything was legit, from the birth certificates, everything down. And so that was amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, when you met them, did any of them look like you?
Well, they're older than I am. My sister, her name is Gisela, and so she was actually born in Germany from another. Her dad is separate from the other 2 brothers, and so when my mom came to America, she came with a soldier, and so they lived up in Traverse City. And anyway, so they're a little older than I am. There is claims that I look like maybe my second oldest brother. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because I met my half sister when I was like 12 and or 10, and you walk in and it's like, oh. Yeah, no blood test needed. Like she had the nose and all that stuff. Yeah, it was like pretty crazy.
Yeah, at all.
That's all. All right, so you grow up in Detroit, and so talk a little bit about when did you become a believer in Jesus, and then when did you say I'm going to go full-time ministry?
Sure. Well, it was a lot of my dad. Towards the latter years of his life, he lived a short life, unfortunately. He passed at the age of 59, but during his mid-50s, up until he passed, he became very vocal in encouraging me highly to really consider giving my life to the Lord. And, man, I was extremely defiant, did not want anything to do with it, Dave. I really didn't.
Yeah.
And so we lived in this apartment complex. It's still there to this day, which is amazing. And we lived in this apartment, and when I'd come home from school or I'd come home from outside for whatever, he would have other people from the complex kind of praying for me. So I'm going up the steps, about to go into the door, and I can hear them just praying for me. And it just drove me crazy.
Yeah.
It drove me nuts. And so, make a long story short, at the age of 19, my dad just really encouraged. He really wanted to go to church, and he wasn't able to physically get around. His health had really deteriorated. I was his only means of, getting him around. And so we went to a church, and that service really rocked my world.
Really?
Really, I gave my heart to Jesus that night of March 1994. And there's a lot that went into that service itself, but it was pretty dramatic on how that even took place. But the long story is, I gave my life and my heart to the Lord that day, and so and from there,
So your dad was able to see that his desire for you to know Jesus get fulfilled.
Absolutely. In that moment, he's bawling, he's crying.
Sure.
He says, son, he's like, my life's complete. He says, I've seen everything I want. You think, well, he wanted to travel. He wanted to know. It was his only one heart's desire. And I truly gave my life to the Lord that day. And so he passed away 11 months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just incredible, by the way you just say that, and I know we can't get into all the details for so many reasons, but it's like everything about that sentence you just said is like from adoption, foster home, and not knowing your mom, being abandoned in a hospital, all these crazy things and then you meet Jesus, and your dad's like, this is it. I mean, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
To know that was really what mattered the most to him.
That was it.
Yeah, that's so cool. All right, and so then at that point, kid growing up in Detroit towards Mexican town, right? Last name Cripps, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you've got all this stuff going on. You end up, so when did you say, I want to go into ministry, and what was that like?
Shortly when my dad passed, I just really had a real intense desire to know the Word and to know the Lord. And so I went that whole year after his passing, just absorbing the Bible, really immersing myself with the Word and worship, and just going to church. I mean, I just fell in love with Jesus, with everything that I had. And it was during that time I was also involved with theater. I was involved with different theatrical groups, and I was at that point, my really great desire at that point was to travel and do theatrical work. But God really shifted things, and there came a point where I had to make a decision. Rather, I was truly going to trust God and walk by faith and believe that His plan for my life was better than what I thought I had. And so I had to make a real hard decision. I remember it like it was yesterday, that I had to release myself from that desire of being in the theatrical. Nothing wrong with it, but for the direction from my life. And so that was a very turning point, because from there I immersed myself in ministry, in serving and helping kids and families in Detroit, riding on buses and picking up kids all over the city of Detroit. And so I just really developed a great love for that, because a lot of the things that these families and children are experiencing were very similar to what I went through. I grew up with my mom literally not wanting me, not even mentioning me to her other children ever. Like they had no thought of me. So therefore, a lot of the children that that we're serving all these years kind of have that same similar situation where, and in most cases it is reversed.
Right.
That's why I was so inspired by the speaker that you had talking about the value of dads in children's life. And so, because it is vital. And so I developed a great passion for that. I enjoyed it, picking up kids and bringing them to church and bringing them to our ministry, and just allowing them to have an opportunity where they can have hope and know Christ. Yep.
Man. Yeah. And so then you're a volunteer in some kind of a street ministry, right, where they're doing busing and all that stuff. All right, so explain to everyone what the Good News Gang does. What is your organization about?
Sure. Good News Gang is designed to provide hope and build champions, right? To provide hope for children to know Christ, and to have an alternate outlet to say, you know what, God has better for your life. You don't need to be limited to what you see around you, abandoned homes, right? The drug abuse, all the crime that they're surrounded by. And so we give them an opportunity to present to them to know Christ and have a chance where they can succeed and do amazing things with their life. So on Saturdays, we bus in children all over the city. We have 2 locations now, West Side and Southwest Detroit, where we're busing in children all over the city, and we bring them in to a high extreme energy building. Yeah. I mean, it is loud. Yeah. It's exciting.
You guys do a good job.
And it's, we have games, there's music. But then when it's time for the hearing of the word, we have a system that's in place that gets their attention, that gets them to focus on what's the most important thing why they're there, which is to get the word of God. And so, and then we are able to feed them as well every single Saturday. We either provide a meal in the building where they sit down like a family style, where they get to hang out with their friends and their mentors and their workers, or we if we're not doing food that way, we send them on the bus and we provide food as they're riding back home. So and there's additional programs out of that as well.
Yeah, because then you guys have different days of the week where you do tutoring too?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is that the same thing, they're getting bussed in for that, or how does that work?
We actually van them in. We have our fleet of vans where our team members, where they go out and they pick up chosen kids, because we can't tutor 300 children. 300, 400. It's just that's virtually impossible.
You could, it just wouldn't be good.
It wouldn't be effective, right?
Right, yeah.
And so we found that out many years ago. We tried our darnest to try to figure a way that we can service and accommodate that many children, and it was just not being effective. So what we did is we identified 25 to 30 kids that we handpicked, and we're just pouring into them. And so they're in our tutoring program as long as they want to be, either unless they move or they lose desire. But they're up until they graduate.
Oh,
We're with them.
And then you also pastor Metro Church.
Metro Life Church.
Metro Life Church. Okay.
Yeah.
Same building.
Same
Sundays.
facility. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when did you start pastoring that church?
That was in 2005.
Okay.
2000, because I started Good News Gang at the year of 2000, November.
How old were you when you started Good News Gang?
I was 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously you said you had some experience with this because you were doing some bus ministry. So it wasn't like you were like walking in not knowing anything, right?
Yeah.
But was it because you just realized this area of the city didn't have anything? Like, why did you go with Good News Gang in that area?
Sure. Actually, to go back in the general neighborhoods that I grew up in was a very essential need to go in that general area. And so, because where I was more closer to the west side near Redford, but really had a desire to go to Southwest Detroit and reach children in that community and their families as well. And so, and we go out every week. We visit our families. We knock on the doors. And while we're visiting them, we're praying with them. And we're also recruiting other kids and other families. And so when my younger ones and I go out, as they're looking for cats, I'm looking for kids and families. Because they love the stray cat. We went recently, and they're looking at the cats. They get out and they want to pet the cats. They know they're there for the cats. I'm there for the kids.
The kids, yeah. That's awesome.
But we have a lot of fun.
All right, so let's say I'm like, hey Matt, I'm going to be on your team. I want to join. So you're going out on Saturdays, on the buses, and then you're going out another day of the week.
Yeah, that's the day that we call visitations, that we go out. Typically, most of us go out on Fridays.
Okay.
And so, because it's a day right before the Saturday, gives a fresh reminder to the kids and the families, hey, don't forget, right, we're coming tomorrow. And every Saturday, there's no Saturday that's the same. We have Emoji Saturday. This coming week, we have a Carnival Day. It's it's always something fresh.
Yeah.
So that the kids can always look forward to something that's always different. But the most important thing is the word goes forth. We have a lot of fun. It's loud. It's exciting. But we make sure that we keep the main thing.
Yeah, that's it. That's fantastic. And then obviously you guys realize we want to do the tutoring to help support these kids and the other thing. And one of the things I noticed, there's a great article I watched. Was it Trinity Broadcasting Network who came and did a piece on you?
CBN channel.
Christian Broadcasting.
Network.
Anyways, I found it on the YouTubes. And I was like, and I watched it. And one of the things you guys do is like, if a kid's getting a good grade, you highlight them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, if they're getting straight A's or A's and B's, we have special parties where we celebrate that with
the
them.
A's and B's.
A's
party.
and B's, because Dave, the challenging thing that we have ran into is that we serve as a second family to them, because many of them come from situations where unfortunately, they're not encouraged. They're not, a lot of them don't even know if they have food on the table, to be honest with you, Dave.
Yep.
Some of them come on the buses not looking the best or even smelling the greatest. But that's why when they come to us, there is unconditional love. And we look past all of that stuff, because some of the young people that are now serving in vital roles with us now were once the same children that we picked up 20 years ago. So it's our hope to train them up so they can either stay with us and become a helper and reach more children with us, or they go off in life and become successful, whatever it is the Lord has for them.
And when you started this 20-some years ago, because what's interesting about you is you're not attached to any other organization. You're your own thing. And so whenever I would, in the church world, we'd call you like a parachurch organization, right? Mm-hmm. You're doing church work alongside the church. You're doing things that a church typically doesn't do or whatever. You had to be broke. You had to be like completely broke, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So how'd you guys, you're young, obviously you got like 6 kids, so your wife's interested in you, so you had to feed them too. How'd you guys swing it at the beginning?
Dave, that's remarkable. We have seen God just provide in so many miraculous ways, but it was tough. when we first came in November 2000, my wife and I were working daytime jobs, and we cleaned buildings at night together while we were doing this work here in Detroit, and it was tough, very tough. We have facilitated buildings where right in Southwest Detroit on West Grand Boulevard, where it was infested. This may sound extreme, but infested with rats.
Yeah.
And what we continued to move forward. We had no heat in our buildings. We had no bathrooms. We had no parking. You know, I always tell somebody I'm not really into writing a book, but if I did, it would be entitled "Worship with the Rats," because we experienced some very difficult moments, and during those first 5-6 years, where we were just plugging away as missionaries to the city of Detroit, because the families and the children that we're serving, we don't ask one penny of them.
I know
we just want to love them, share the love of Christ with them, share the gospel. We don't expect anything in return. And so we have depended on God and God's people, the body of Christ, believers, to help us, do what we do. And that's to be an extension of the hands and feet of Jesus. But it was tough. We operated times where our buildings were set on fire. We had experienced many break-ins in our building.
Yeah.
Our buses have been,
so
batteries been stolen.
Yeah, when I was down there this summer delivering it, you were explaining that you have to take the batteries out of the buses when you're not around, because they disappear. You can't start your buses on Saturday.
Yeah.
And a bus has 3 batteries, right?
Right, generally, yes.
Yeah, there's 3 batteries, and you got to take all these heavy things out, because if not, it's just not going to be there for you.
That's
and
true.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And that's all just built into that's how we operate. Oh, yeah, done with the road? Who's taking the batteries out? Right? Like, it's like, not even who's picking up the trash on the bus, who's getting the batteries out? So the deep cells. So, yeah, and so you guys you're constantly adapting to all those problems. And I think when we first met a few years ago, the place you're at is a good facility. I mean, you got a lot of different things there. But you're like, see that building down there? We need that thing tore down.
Yeah.
Right? Because an empty building just brings in rats, brings in, people hiding, and, it just brings in problems. And that's a big building. How much would it cost to tear that building down?
Dave, we've had a variety of different estimates that has come in the last few years, all the way from $150,000 to $400,000.
Yep.
Now, let me share real quick about that specific building, because there are 2 buildings that we have on our property. That specific one that you're referring to is an old Greek Orthodox building. And so in 2019, when we celebrated the miracle of paying off our property, 1 month later, we had guys had broke in and literally stole the outside doors off the building, took the doors, like the outside doors.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, they took the pipes out of the building. And so the next day, one of our team members heard water flowing from inside the building. Come to find out, when they ripped out one of the pipes, it ran to the water line, and so it was water just continuously flowing into that building. So we called the city of Detroit to come, the water department to come shut it off. And may I say, it took them 3 weeks to find the shutoff valve from the outside. 3 weeks. So in that 3-week time, the water is just continuing flowing because of, again, break-ins, vandalism. And so a month after that, we get a bill, and it just rocked my heart. But I knew.
How much was the bill, by the way?
$42,000. $42,000.
You didn't have an extra $240,000?
No, we didn't have $42,000. Just playing around. And so I tell you, we contested that bill for 2 months, and so the water department really didn't provide any really relief in sort of way. So we had to, bare our knuckles and ask for help. And so a young man at the age of 22 years old gave us a check for $30,000 that paid the majority of that water bill that we had. It was a miracle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. A 22-year-old
kid. A 22-year-old kid sent a check in for $30,000. I couldn't believe it. We were so amazed and humbled at God's provision. But going back to the bill, we want to see that building torn down because it is an eyesore, number one. And number two, we want to provide, ultimately, our hope and our dream is to build a new build facility, like a gymnasium, because the building that we're currently using now, if people were to come out, they'll see we're maxed out.
Yeah.
Literally, our main room is maxed out with kids all from the city.
Yeah, and you're basically at the point now, like, you can't grow because you don't have space.
Right.
And so when you're working with these kids and you and your team are caring about them and like you're talking about this idea of, like, at some level you're like a family to them because you are interested in what they are doing as an individual, which they might not be getting at home for a lot of reasons, right? And so really kind of being Jesus with skin on, right? Like,
That's right.
I like you because God made you, right? Like that's it, and so I'm interested in you as a person. What have been some of the success stories? And I'm not talking about like a kid who, goes off and becomes a CEO of a major corporation, then, tithes their whole salary to you as a thanks to God, like, which would be awesome. But like, but what have been some of the highlights of doing this ministry of life transformation you guys have gotten to witness and be a part of?
I could share multiple stories, but one in particular, there's one specific one that really stands out. There's a young man that was brought in and ministered to through our ministry, and now he's a lead pastor in Dearborn Heights, him and his wife.
Really?
And they're pastoring a church. And so that brings great joy, seeing that what God has established in his heart while he was a young man, now he's in Dearborn Heights and pastoring a church there. And we have so many stories like that where young people that experienced a very difficult life, that didn't know their dad, which I would say 8 out of 10 of our children don't have their biological dad in their life involved in any sort of way. And to see certain ones rise through all of those difficult moments and see them producing, now they're married, they have children of their own, and they've got, they're living in their full-time work. That wasn't modeled before them. Getting up in the morning, going to work, being responsible, paying bills, having a house. We've got endless amount of stories like that. Yeah.
Stabilized.
There's this one young lady, her name is Felicia, and she's part of our team, and she had a very difficult upbringing as well, but now she's teaching. She married a young man that's a teacher as well, and now, and so she has 2 daughters of her own. The stories that she can share, maybe one day, we can ask her if she'd ever be interested, but she has an incredible testimony and the things that she had to experience when she was a little girl and with her family, but now seeing her thrive, because we don't want to just put, a mindset of just surviving. We want them to thrive in life.
Yeah, that's that champion side.
Yeah, champion side, exactly.
That's so cool. And then because you are a follower of God, and we were kind of talking about this before the interview and so forth, it's like things don't always go well. Would you share a time when you guys kind of felt like, like questioning it, or kind of what would be a rock bottom experience, and then how you got out of that? And yes. I know you have more than
one.
One.
Absolutely. I'd love to share a couple of experiences that we've had. Let me see which one really stands out right now. The one that really stands out, I go back to not too long ago, way back in 2007. We just moved into a Polish dance hall. And so we came out of a warehouse, we moved into a Polish dance hall, and we had no heat in the building. No heat. So when the winter came, it's like it's as if you're outside.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's actually colder because the
humidity is trapped inside.
Oh, it's awful. Mm-hmm. And so I remember this specific day like it was, again, yesterday. We had a service, and we ran these, believe it or not, Dave, we ran these torpedo heaters, that you would typically run in an industrial place or the warehouse, but we ran them in our main auditorium. Was the only source of supplement of heat that we could get. And so they're loud, right? And chemicals, right? All these fumes, right? People thought we were nuts. I said, listen, the people would approach and say, what do you guys do? I said, listen, unless you're willing to help us, really there's only 2 options we have. And those 2 options was to quit and give up, or to keep going and believe God for miracles. And so this one particular Sunday, leading up to that Sunday day, we were the weather. Michigan is like a lot of people. You never unpredictable, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so Michigan during that whole week was warm, and it was exciting to know that we could put those torpedo heaters away for that particular day. Unfortunately, that weather dropped that night before, so we had to bring them out. And as they were running right in the middle of our worship time, one of the torpedo heaters started sparking, pow, pow, bang, 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 and it sounded like someone was shooting a gun. Someone walked in the building as if, and we were like flipping out, right? And so I'm just, oh my gosh, Lord, what is going on? And so that one gave out, and so quite a few people that visited that day left out of the building, and then still got one left, and we transitioned, and now we're sharing the word, and right in the middle of the word time, the second one starts, backfiring. like
my
as
gosh.
if someone's walking in with a gun.
Yeah.
And it was over the top. And then in addition to that, for that particular day, our sound system started acting a little nuts. I'm like, what is going? My heart was broken, Dave. I really,
Yeah.
I've never been.
that would be the point. I'd be like,
Yeah, this
God,
is
do you
it.
not want me doing this?
My heart was broken, Dave. There was a little room off to the side of our stage that we had at that moment, and I was crushed. I
Yeah.
was really, really crushed. And it's in that moment that I'm just questioning God, right? Questioning Lord, like what is, like all I'm asking is heat. Like I just want people to be comfortable so they can be warm and get rid of these blowers, you know. And so it's in that moment. My 3 older girls, they were much younger then. They walked into that little room that I was in. And it was as if God was bringing little angels into that room just to bring an encouragement to me. And they sat wrapping their arms around me and said, "We love you, Dad. And we'll see you." Like, as usually they would head out and I would stick around and either do meetings or meet with folks and that sort of thing. And it was just, it was in that moment I just realized that, God, you're good. I may not have heat, but God, you've given me life. You've given me a family. Sometimes we take so many things for granted, and some of the most important things we take for granted. I've got a family. I've got friends. I've got, God, you've given me this desire to want to reach children in Detroit, and you're going to provide. It was not even 3 months later, we had heaters actually installed in our main auditorium. They were put inside, like, in the corners.
Yep.
And so then we had heat. That was a milestone for us. We were thrilled because even though you could see the units, but yet we had heat.
And hats off to you, because I'm sitting here going, well, I actually was expecting that story. And I'm in the back room, I'm crushed, and someone walks in and says, "I'm handling this. Next week, Heat's going to be here, and I'm writing a check." That's what I expected.
No.
But you had to go another 12 weeks of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that definitely speaks to a maturity of your faith, that you're like, you're like, God, I know you're going to do something, and you were smart enough to not say now.
Right.
Right? Like, you'll do something. It's
Yes,
just in his time. Okay. Man, that's that's crazy. I know when I walk around with you, you explain to me the things that you're dealing with. I go, well, these are completely different problems than I'm used to, right? Like, it's like, so, and your team, the people who are doing this with you, their desire to serve with you is that because they just understand that Jesus loves people and they want to love them? Or like, what motivates someone to do all this stuff with you?
Dave, I just got to say this. I'm glad you brought that up, because they're my real heroes. They're the heroes to me. Hey, you can take LeBron, you can have a Kobe, but I'll take these kind of people that have a heart for children and families in Detroit, and they give so selflessly. In other words, they give of themselves, of above and beyond. And none of them we don't have, no one that's paid staff. I am the only full-time member at this point, because we raise support separate as a missionary to do what it is that we do. And so each of these wonderful, amazing individuals, they love the Lord and they love the city of Detroit, and they understand what it's going to take. It's not just, well, let's just throw an event and let's provide some clothes and some food this day and we'll see them next year. No, they're in the grind every single day. Some of these team members have brought children into their homes and lived with them.
Oh, wow.
And we're dealing with so many variety of different even situations as we speak right now. Well, some of our team members are bringing in kids in their home, and we've done it. My wife and I have done it several times. And so they are the ones that really are the heartbeat to what we do, because without them, I can only drive one bus at one time. I can only reach out to so many kids and families, but with them and the desire and the heart that they have, just encourages me at many times. There's been other moments in my personal journey here where I just felt like, man, maybe I'm in over my head. But it's people like them that they said, man, we're with you. We're in this together. And so they have brought encouraged me so many years, and saw their acts of love, their acts of kindness. And many of the team members that we're with now have been with me for 20 years now. You're not just, we don't have folks that come around and just leave. No, those that really get in deep with us, they're in it. We've been doing it for a long time, and I'm grateful for each of them. It's my prayer and hope that one day we can do a little bit more tangible things for them, because they don't ask for much, Dave. They don't ask for nothing. We've got some team members right now that don't even have a car. I'm actually later today, because we have service on Thursdays and tutoring, we have to go pick up some of our team members because they can't even get there because their cars are broke down. So it's those basic practical things that I would love to see get us to a place that we can help them with a used car, used van, that sort of thing, because these guys are the real heroes.
Yeah. I know one of the things you're telling me is that, as you're explaining these people who are these heroes to you, it's like you're limited in how much ministry you can do by how many people you have volunteering, right? That's your buildings and leaders are going to be your major bottleneck. It's not finding kids. You guys have figured out how to do that.
Well, we know how to do that.
Yeah, you guys have definitely figured that out. So if someone wants to either support your ministry financially, support you guys, you and your wife financially, or wants to kind of check out volunteering, what are some next steps that they could do to kind of see what options are?
Sure. Obviously, I'd like to direct people to our website, the goodnewsgang.org website. They can go there and just check out what we do. And if they'd like to give and contribute to the work, we'd be grateful for that. They can go to the PayPal portion where they can give online. They also can sign up to receive a monthly newsletter that we send out monthly. So these letters go out every single month and just provides, we don't pressure people to give. We don't, it's just a touch point where we send these through to their home, to their physical address, and they could just read it. And one thing I do ask is that when people receive these is to basically pray for us, pray for our work, because we need it. And so if we can get people to contribute, $30, $40, $50 a month, that goes a long way. Think about it. More people could do that. Yep. I think a lot of us have the home run syndrome. We figure that if I can't hit the home run out the park, in other words, they have this theory that if I can't give a lot, then I can't do nothing. Yep. That's not farthest from the truth. If you can give a little, God can take that little and make it much. 5 loaves and 2 fish, right? The little boy. Yep. He gave the little that he had, and God multiplied it. And so that's how we believe. We believe if you can do something, do just a little bit. And so if they'd like to sign up and get our newsletter, they can send their mailing address to our email, which is info@goodnewsgang.org. Info@goodnewsgang.org, and they can just simply put in their mailing address, and we can send it to them.
Oh, let me see this. So, anyways, I get these because 5-7 years ago I did stuff with Matt and I got them, and I was just throwing them away. Not even open them, throwing them away, because I'm very important apparently, right? And and it was funny because I go down and I deliver those bikes that we were able to provide, and Matt's telling me about just some of the things going on. I go, I'm going to start reading your newsletters now. Ever since then, I've been opening them and reading them, and sometimes I do say a prayer for them, sometimes I don't because I'm a horrible human being, and it's amazing just to see the different things that are going on. And what's great about this newsletter is as you read it, you're going to see that God's doing things. Mm-hmm. If there's no other encouragement that happens besides that, it's like, man, God's doing some great things. And so anyways, I really appreciate you coming by today. I appreciate you spending time with us and filling this in a little bit more about your ministry.
I'm sorry, Dave. One more thing. Yeah. They can also check us out on Facebook. They can like our Facebook page and see what's going on there, because we keep that more updated than
that's your primary communication, because most of the people you're working with are over 30. So
exactly.
Facebook, that's where we're at. Right?
And one other thing, if there's anyone who'd like to come and check it out firsthand, because talking about it from us, you and I, is one thing, but coming and experiencing it firsthand, riding on a bus.
Yeah.
Riding on a bus, simply riding on a bus with us and driving through the neighborhoods, watching the children come out their doors and seeing their worlds that they live in, and then transferred over to our building and see all the life and the joy. It's like a party every single week.
Right.
And so that changes everything. Talking about it like this is one thing, but seeing it firsthand and experiencing, riding on a bus, meeting the kids, sitting next to a child, and then seeing the building, see what we do every week.
And you guys have the capacity to handle people
visiting.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All right. Matt, thanks so much for the time. Thanks for coming by. Let's end with some knuckles.
Okay, we do that.
All right. Again, thanks for listening to this. If you want to hit our subscribe button and also click a like on this, that really helps us in the analytics. Have a great day.